Welcome back. Tonight at Summer Nights, we continued our new study, Follow Me. And this summer, we are learning what it means to be a disciple of Jesus. Now, do you remember what we said last week about who a disciple is? A disciple is someone who follows Jesus, who lives like Jesus did when he was here on this earth. And a disciple is also somebody who goes out and shares that message with others. We are to go out and to share the good news about Jesus with others around us. Well, tonight we learned more about Saul, who would later become known as Paul, and how Saul came to know Jesus. Now, if you know anything about Saul's story, especially the beginning of Saul's story, it wasn't good. Saul was a persecutor of the church. He was someone who went out, he arrested Christians, he persecuted Christians, he would have them beaten and sometimes even killed, all because they followed Jesus. Saul did not believe that Jesus was really the Messiah. And there was one day as he was on his way to the city of Damascus to persecute more Christians that Jesus spoke to Saul. He revealed to Saul that he really was the Messiah, and he sent Saul to someone in the city, a man by the name of Ananias. Now, God had spoken to Ananias as well and told him that Saul was coming and that he needed to share the gospel message with Saul. Well, it's a good thing that he did, because that day Saul chose to believe in Jesus. He became a Christian, and he became one of the greatest missionaries to ever live. He went all around the world telling people about Jesus. But Saul, when he became a Christian, he knew exactly what was about to happen to him. Saul knew the trouble that he may face very soon. And why is that? Well, because he had been doing those things. He had been the one persecuting Christians, and he knew that same persecution may come upon him as well. Now, Jesus spoke about this, about those of us who choose to give our lives to him, to become a Christian, to become a disciple. Jesus had something to say. He said, you need to be willing to count the cost. So listen to what Jesus said in Luke chapter 14. Jesus says, "For which of you, wanting to build a tower, doesn't first sit down and calculate the cost, to see if he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, after he has laid the foundation and cannot finish it, all the onlookers will begin to ridicule him, saying, 'This man started to build and wasn't able to finish.'" Well, what Jesus was saying in this passage is that we should count the cost of discipleship before we become a Christian. We should know what we're getting into. We should know what may come if we choose to follow Jesus. Well, again, Saul did. He knew exactly what would happen. He knew that he may have to face some of his old friends who would not be happy to hear that he knew Jesus or that he believed in Jesus. But Saul did know exactly what was coming, because God had revealed that in Acts chapter 9, what would happen to Saul if he became a Christian. And here's what God said. "But the Lord said to him, 'Go, for this man, Saul, is my chosen instrument to take my name to Gentiles, kings, and Israelites. I will show him how much he must suffer for my name.'" So Saul knew that suffering was coming. He knew that persecution was coming. He knew that it would not be easy to follow Jesus. And yet he still did it. He still gave his life to be a disciple of Jesus, who went out to live like Jesus and went out to share that message with others. And that is exactly what God has called all of us to do. We are to live like Jesus and to share his message with everyone that we can. That's what it means to be a follower of Jesus. So we should count the cost of discipleship, but we should also know that it will always be worth it. Because what is our reward? Those of us who are Christians, we will get to live with God forever in heaven. It's definitely worth the cost. Now, one thing that I'm challenging all of our kids this summer is to memorize our theme verse. Our theme verse this summer is Luke 9:23. We read this last week. I want to read it to you again. And I challenge you, even as a family, memorize this verse together this summer. Here's what it says. "Then he said to them all, 'If anyone wants to follow after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me.'" I hope that you will make that a challenge for your family, to memorize this verse and to do a better job at being a disciple of Christ in this very dark world. We'll see you next week.